Pictures of dead drug addicts, car accident victims and all the other gore stuff that certainly makes some of you want to vomit should be actually showed at school for 15 to 16-year-old teenagers. If kids see what might be the result of their dumb actions like going 200 kilometers per hour, they'll think twice before doing that. Also, when they happen to see some car accident, they won't panic because they know already how stuff like that looks like, and they'll keep their minds sober and will help instead of vomiting and panicking. It's a good idea, but most people, especially young ones, have this attitude of "it won't happen to me." When you're that age, you think you're immortal. The problem isn't that they don't understand how bad it can be, the problem is that most of them haven't lived enough life to see that drastic, life-changing things can happen to them, and not just other people. You can bridge the gap a little by bringing in someone they identify with, a former student from their school who can tell them what gang life or drug addiction or maiming in reckless driving is like. But for most kids, showing them a black lung or a guy ripped in half from a car accident is like showing them pictures of Syrian refugees. Oh, so sad. Anyway, back to my life where none of that stuff happens. When I was in elementary school, they brought in a black lung in a plastic bag and let me poke it. "Why is it like this?" I asked. "Cigarettes, that stuff doesn't work." Showing kids pictures of smokers with mouth cancer doesn't work. Telling people if they have sex they'll get pregnant doesn't work. Instead of lying and fear-mongering, we need to be open and honest about how not all drugs are equal, and how addiction isn't a one-use only thing for most people. Everyone I know who became addicted to a substance did so because they thought it was safe, and could originally put it down. By showing the absolute worst-case scenario to kids, we're making it so that when they don't die using these drugs, they don't believe they're dangerous at all. My dad works in EMS, and when we were learning to drive he showed all my siblings pictures from car accidents where they weren't wearing seat belts. None of us let anyone ride in our cars without buckling up to this day. I had a high school physics teacher like this. I think he lost his kid to a drunk driver or something. Basically every question in our forces and motion chapters were reworked into real acceleration and mass numbers from drunk driving accidents with pictures of the wreckage from the news. I'll never drive even the slightest bit impaired. Yeah, my school actually did do this and it scared the shit out of me. Lots parents complained, kids needed counseling. Never did drive drunk though. This can seriously backfire with the wrong kid. When I was in school they showed us a brutal and terrifying video in shop class about what can go wrong. I was so scared by the video I wouldn't touch the machines. Would have failed, but I think the teacher realized what had happened. Doubt I was the first case of this, so he passed me. I think a much better start would be representing these subjects honestly. This is especially true with drugs. They prioritize fear over genuine education. It creates an atmosphere of distrusts. Health classes cherry-picking super niche negative effects for things like weed can lead some kids to some they're doing the same for everything else. Think about it, if you're constantly told that acid will make you go crazy and you try it and turn out perfectly fine, the school immediately loses all credibility in your eyes. They fail to demonstrate the huge contrast between certain substances. Slapping the same super addictive label on everything is a horrible way of doing things, especially considering teens don't understand how addiction truly works. If a teen smokes weed and enjoys it, they'll probably do it again, and perhaps several more times, but they will easily be able to refrain if need be, assuming their use wasn't dangerously excessive. Now say that same teen then smokes meth and enjoys it. They'll now have a predisposition that addiction is something that takes a long time or is easily avoidable, leading them to have a false sense of comfort, resulting in them doing it again thinking they'll be able to stop like they did with weed. But of course, meth is extremely addictive and you won't know you're sucked in until it's too late. Could all be avoided if the school system was more honest and transparent. It can help, but not if it is over the top and exaggerated. When I realized weed didn't actually make you go crazy, I started to doubt everything they told me about drugs as a kid. It's actually too late by then. Most of the kids I went to school with who were into drugs were already into them at 13 to 14, and that was before things like lean became popular. I don't know. I don't drink or do drugs, don't plan to, I don't wanna see those images either, I don't wanna hurt anyone. No red asphalt series in your country. As a high school student, I do agree that a lot of us need that flash of reality, but it should be prefaced with a warning. My driver's ed class showing us a dead baby wasn't educational, it was upsetting. My middle school sitting us in a dark room and making us watch a video on suicide, with no message, it just showed a depressed girl K/LL herself, wasn't educational, it just left a lot of us panicked. Some people need a reality check. Some of us have already had it and don't need another. Shock education doesn't really work imo. I remember there's this very common poster in the Philippines which showed a really grisly body of a smoker. It didn't stop people from smoking. Also, with the advent of the internet, people will see those kinds of things anyway, so showing it at school isn't going to do much. I went through D. A. R. E. I have done everything. Not exactly a working program. Definitely posted by someone who was never a teenager. Please tell me how you missed your formative years. No, don't. I've watched hundreds of videos of people getting decapitated and other gory stuff, now I feel like I can't feel sadness, it's really disturbing because I sometimes think I'm a psychopath. Maybe I am, who knows, but don't do that. Well, should I actually kinda agree? Hell, I had a job working on the opioid crisis where I had to read all of the police and autopsy reports, along with pictures, of people who died from opioids. Just reading that stuff makes me never want to touch that shit either for medical or illicit reasons.